What's going on, everybody? This is Super Mike 2164. Press the like, press the share. Just have some information from the New York Times today. We got a situation out there in New York. Uh, Basically, they're showing that the subway was their refuge on cold nights. Now it's off limits. New York City homeless population has faced a particularly brutal winter as coronavirus restrictions have kept the subway and indoor public spaces closed. February 8th, 2021. On a piercingly cold December night, a handful of homeless passengers sought refuge on a heated subway trains rumbling deep into Brooklyn. But when they arrived at the end of the line, just after 1 a.m., those riders awoke to a grim reality. The subway was shutting down and they would have to leave. Some slipped out of the Stillwell Avenue station and disappeared into the shadows of nearby buildings in search of a safe place to sleep. Others slumped onto a bus stop bench, burying their heads and hands deep inside puffy winter coats to brace against the frigid temperatures from the ocean steps away in Coney Island. A few simply refused to leave the station, prompting police officers to drag them out. And they show a picture of the police dragging them out. For decades, the city's sprawling subway system has offered a shelter of last resort for thousands of homeless New Yorkers, particularly during the winter months. Many who are worried of the city, often crowded and sometimes violent shelters, descend into the system from the parks and streets above, seeking sanctuary in its round the clock trains. But last spring, when the pandemic ripped through New York and Governor Andrew Cuomo mandated that the city's famously 24-hour subway system be shut down overnight for disinfection, that safe haven vanished. Now, homeless people living on the streets are confronting a dangerous mix of winter weather and a lack of indoor public spaces like subways, stations, trains, and fast food restaurants that once offered respite each night. So that just a highlight, just showing that I'm not sure if they changed that policy since then, but the homeless was kicked out of some of the longtime options that they had in in New York there. Some of easy options to give homeless to make sure they didn't freeze to death and die out there. It's something that's probably important. You don't want a bunch of dead bodies just from the cold. But immigrant communities demand health care coverage for all. This is February 17, 2022. So community-led groups gather to highlight the need for health care for Black immigrants and ask that the state pass coverage for all in Harlem on Friday, February 4th. Okay, so we got one Black woman talking, but everybody behind her, except one other person, is Asian and Hispanic. So the community-led groups, they're demanding health care coverage and to be paid for by New York State. So they want coverage for all. They start leaning on the memory of Adam Clayton Powell on his building in Harlem. Activists from the New York Immigration Coalition and the African Services Committee chanted high and loud about forgotten immigrant essential workers that are still unsecured and suffer suffering without proper access to health care. Gene Awunusi, program manager of DSI International, said that many resorted to self-medication during the pandemic because they were afraid to go to hospitals. He said they had palpable fear of deportation since they were undocumented, despite experiencing symptoms or getting reassurance that the status wouldn't matter for care. So, it's just showing you that, just highlighting that, you know, services have to be given to citizens first. That's what the community pays for. You know, when you got cities with these overwhelming homeless populations, uh, but we can't find like shelters or some type of mental health services. Psychologists are not being paid to do the mental health services, but at the same time, there's all sorts of money, all sorts of resources, sanctuary state status, all sorts of benefits that the children of undocumented immigrants and all these type of folks can get. But you have generational citizens who are experiencing problems. They're looking for jobs. They're having a hard time get work. Uh, some of these immigrants, they start businesses. They don't hire the native born people. So these are the type of things that we need to be thinking about. We need to make sure that we create policy and force. I don't care what political party that you are part of. You have to force. Uh, you have to prioritize what is given based on citizenship. All right, peace.